Robbie Benson, one-on-one. One-on-one. That was horrendous. I mean, and such a cliched, flawed movie that was just pedantically slow in terms of pace. You knew exactly what was going to happen. I mean, who didn't think that Benson was going to star in the championship game at the end of that movie? It would have been a better movie if he got hurt and never, he left the court.
You're like rooting for him to get hurt.
Some imagination if you're writing one of these scripts, no?
Like, oh, wow, they did it. There was a twist. I didn't see that coming.
Who thought he was going to fall flat on his face and the coach was going to say, you know what? I told you were awful and you should have been on the team in the first place. I should have revoked your scholarship. You're a jerk.
He's down on his luck and becomes a drug addict. You're like, wow, that movie took a turn. What a great movie.
What a movie. Would have been a better movie if Hilary Swank had checked out after she got hit with the head with the chair, which, not even Richard Steele would have allowed that to go on. Steve Smoger, who would have a guy, I nicknamed Steve Smoger, the boxing referee, let him bleed. Guy would be bleeding from every pore, and the Smoger going, yeah, one more round. That's it, kid. If you don't show me something here, I'm going to have to stop it. Steve, this fight should have been stopped when he came out of the dressing room. What are you talking about?
He's like passing out.
Guy's getting a transfusion in the corner, and Smoger's going, okay, man. He's telling Emmanuel Stewart, I'll give you a guy one more round. That's it.
My God. The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubie. Lubitz looking sharp today, Mike Lubie. Lubitz looking fresh. You must have gotten a really good night's sleep, especially now that everybody in town is a hockey expert. And, of course, we're here in South Florida, and the Florida Panthers fired off the first salvo in their series against the Carolina Hurricanes last night. Looked great. Just immensely better than Carolina was. That could have been the rust versus rest theory once again. The Panthers coming out of a 7-game series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, of course, Carolina had been kind of cruising along there, sailing along under Rob Brindamore's leadership into the third round of the playoffs. They've met in the Eastern Conference Finals just a couple of years ago. Florida was able to prevail there. I was looking up how many teams have made it there. There are a number of teams, Louie, that have made it to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup Finals, as you might imagine. Especially, it had to be a lot easier when you only had 6 teams in the league. But I started to scroll through it, and you had the Leafs in the early 60s, St. Louis Blues. St. Louis Blues took advantage of the fact that they were the best of the 6 teams that were expanded into the league when the league went from 6 to 12 teams. Didn't they have Red Berenson on that team, Libby? Red Berenson. I was thinking today, too. Red Berenson, I think, was the first guy or among the first guys to wear a helmet. He looked kind of weird out there. Can you imagine they played the game without helmets? What on earth could they possibly have been thinking where anybody can hit their head on the ice at any time, the way they go flying around? What was the game less physical back then? I don't think so. It was certainly played, all the sports were played at a somewhat slower pace, or so it looks. Well, when you watch tennis matches like Bjorn Borg and Jimmy Connors, or Chris Everett and Martina, and you're thinking these were the best players in the game, and they were. I mean, they were sensational at the time, but holy wood rackets, what the hell were they doing out there compared to, you watch Sabalenka and Coco firing off howitzers on every shot in a 20-shot rally, and you're thinking, wow, I don't know that Chrissy could have beat either of these young ladies. And you'd have to wonder how the hockey players of the past would have stacked up against those that you see out there today. But I love it now. Everybody's got the analysis, Lubie. And I had a wide variety of experiences with this game last night. Let me get your thoughts on it, because I think your report would be stellar performance all the way around. You had some of the big guys that you were commenting in the Toronto series did a little bit of a vanishing act, or were not the significant factors that they usually are. And Bobrovsky, from what I saw in the first couple of periods, kept them in this game. That game could have been broken wide open by Carolina. Instead, the Panthers ended up emerging first with a 3-1 lead, and then they expanded it to 5-1 and cruised into the victory, and the final being 5-2. So 1-0, they take the first game on the road. I think home ice for the Panthers is probably a more significant advantage than it is for some other teams, and the Panthers' record so far in the postseason on the road is phenomenal. Lubie. So, what did you think about what transpired? And then we'll get into some other things about the game that maybe were a little bit ancillary to the actual result, but were kind of interesting to me in many different aspects.
We talked about it yesterday, and I think you saw it. Look, Carolina came out strong. The Florida Panthers came out a little weak defensively, which usually is a death knell for them. Like we've seen from Bobrovsky, is if you can keep it under 20 shots, the guy is special. When he starts seeing a lot of shots, he gives up 2 or 3 greasy goals. That was not the case last night. They were getting hit early, and they were really good. They were the kind of opportunities that if he had given up goals, I wouldn't have been. Even I would have had to be like, what is he supposed to do there? And he was fantastic. He was wonderful out the gate. It was like, guys, give him freaking help. And then they give him a lot of help. Like, it was like, all right. He's like, look, guys, I'll get you through this period, but you need it. Like, because that one goal, what they went up 2-0, was it in the first? And then they get that goal that I still don't think was a goal. Like, it was an impressive play to be able to kick backwards. Like, I don't know if Pele is making that play.
It was a bicycle, yes.
The puck was definitely coming. Aho saw it coming, moved his skate to where it was going, and then looks backwards, watches Bobrovsky Bobrovsky was playing it off the skate, but he then sees that and moves his skate in the direction of the goal, directing the puck, which, by my estimation, is a kick. So in any world, that shouldn't have been a goal. But the Panthers, it just steamrolled through it, and we're on such, I don't know, a mission, call it whatever you want, but from late first period on, the defense was fantastic. Their offense was what I wanted to see from them and what we saw in Game 5 and Game 7 versus the Maple Leafs. They were in the zone most of the game, and they were bringing it. And it opens your eyes to me to what one goalie is and one goalie's not. Like, Bobrovsky gives up 2 or 3 stupid goals, but he always keeps them in a game. Anderson, and that wasn't all his fault. Like, he was getting faced with a lot of action, but I don't think he should have given up every goal that he gave up. And Bobrovsky was spectacular. It was, and it's what we've seen from this team. Like, when they have these layoffs, they don't come out like that. Like, it's almost like they were okay playing a Game 7 because they wanted to be in the rhythm. Carolina hadn't played since Thursday, and you sort of saw it. Like, after that first period, they were like, what the hell's happening? Like, they just looked lost. And like, the Panthers just kept coming and coming, and they come in waves. And Verhaeghe woke up, and Bennett woke up, and Barkov was right in the middle of everything. Kachuk, I don't know what's going on with him. He has scored 9 games, and he's not really been involved in much. But I guess you don't notice it because you have Marchand there just mixing it up no matter what in the middle of everything. And it was nice to see them start the series like that. And I guess we'll see just how long the series will be if Brind'Amour and the Hurricanes can figure something out after it.
If you only watch Game 1, you would have to say mismatch so far. Now, we've seen this before where the team that had the longer period of rest came out ice cold in the first game, lost it, and bounced back and then won the second game of the series. But you now fall into the category, Lubie. I hate to say this after one game.
I must win.
If you're the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't even want to say it. You go ahead and pop it in. No, must win doesn't apply yet. But look, I mean, if you're going to be going back to Florida, where the Panthers are especially tough as well, although their road record's stellar so far in the postseason and has been. And also, you don't see Paul Maurice with this team ever lose after they take leads either in games and or in series. No. So up 1-0 in the series, very significant. A lot of different things happen. Getting back to that list, though, it was funny because I got the Blues, I have the Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies made it to 3 straight Stanley Cups, Edmonton in the early 80s, and then you know how when you're Googling something and it says, here's more on the list or whatever, more entries, and you click that on, and instead of giving me the rest of the list,
ad.
It led me to an erectile dysfunction ad.
You get an ad.
I didn't turn this on to get some kind of hard on. I wanted to see, if I could do a little research and see what kind of category the Panthers are falling into, if indeed they make it back. Now, still a lot to overcome, but to make it back to the finals now, they have to win 3 of the next 6, go 500 against the Carolina Hurricanes, and they certainly appear capable of that. That was great. I went out last night, got a little music at the Tipperary pub, and so I watched the first couple of periods on the screens there as the band was playing. And then I jumped in a car about midway through the second period. And I grew up listening to hockey on the radio with the great Win Elliott, one of my heroes. I've often told a story about my very beginning here in Miami, where I was I was a stringer, I guess, for CBS National Radio as the Miami entry. And when they had something out of Miami that they wanted to report on, they would, since we were the CBS affiliate at 940 Wins, my first stint there in the early 80s, they would call and say, hey, can you come on our national show on Saturday or whatever? In this case, it was a Sunday, and give us a preview of the Dolphins and the Bills. And my son was less than a year old. He might have been right around a year old, Jesse. And I was home by myself. My wife went somewhere. And I'm about to go on with Win Elliott on national radio, my very first time. And I couldn't have been more psyched. This was my hero. I used to go to bed listening to this guy on the radio calling hockey games, the great Win Elliott. And I was in love with the guy. I thought he was the greatest ever. And sure enough, I'm going on a show with Win Elliott. I can't believe it. I just started. I just gotten a decent radio job. It was my first real foray into something significant in the business, unless you considered working at KNTF in Rancho Cucamonga, California, of some significance, doing sports reports under an alias because I couldn't let the newspaper know that I had another job because they didn't appreciate any kind of conflict of interest that could, imagine this, Lubie, compromise your journalistic integrity.
What? You need to make money. It's such a stupid world.
This was way back where the newspaper didn't want you involved in any kind of commercial venture, if you will. And so the fact that the radio show was taking on advertisers, that they didn't want you to compromise your journalistic integrity by pandering to somebody that might be putting money in your pocket, Lubie. Imagine that today, by today's standards, be an outright joke. But anyway, so I'm about to go on with Win Elliott. And just as he's about to throw it to me, and I really wasn't used to any of this, so I'm kind of sitting there doing the old davening like a rabbi, counting the time till I go on. And all of a sudden, Win Elliott says, okay, Buffalo Bills in Miami, big game on the NFL slate today. Let's go to the Magic City. And here's Jeff DeForest of 940 Wins. And as he says that,
no, Jesse starts crying.
No, he threw up on me.
No, no. Well, you just got to run. Well, that you can run through.
And I thought maybe this is a sign, and probably was, of what the treachery of the business was going to be all about. It's kind of like the symbolism in Shawshank Redemption when Timothy Robbins swims through 3 miles of sewage to finally find freedom. And you're thinking, yeah, your whole life to find this moment. Maybe working your way through a pile of rhymes with zit. Yeah. And so I thought that this is just beautiful as I started to say, well, you know what? The Miami Dolphins are in tough today because the Buffalo Bills. I think this is just beautiful. My big moment finally came, and I'm covered in baby vomit. But anyway, so I'm driving home last night. I left the show in about the middle of the second period. And I figure, okay, let's see what's happening. It was 2-1 at the time. It might have been 3-1. I think it was 3-1 at that time.
Right after the
and I'm thinking, does WQAM, which carries the Panther games, 560, do they come in always scratchy signals at night if you're listening to AM radio? And for the first time, I think in forever, I turned on a ball game on the radio and B, a hockey game on the radio. Now, the guy, I believe his name is Flavin, and he sounds like a
Doug Plakins. Yeah.
Something like that. And I think he's very good, but how the hell could you possibly follow anything? I mean, this was you could say anything in a hockey radio call, and nobody would know what the hell you were talking about, whether you were right or wrong. Just so fast, rattling off these names, and he's got the puck here, and he's got the puck there, and there it is. It's turnover. So and so's got the puck.
Yeah, how do you keep up with it?
How could you possibly follow that? It's impossible. I don't remember it being that difficult. I don't know. It's not this guy's style because I believe him to be very good. I could never do what this guy was doing, ever, Lubie. I don't know that anybody can. Rattling off all of these bizarre names. Our good friend who does the TV broadcast, Steve Goldie Goldstein, used to do it on the radio. Now it's a whole different aspect of broadcasting. If you're watching on television, you can see what's going on. So you don't need to necessarily mention every transition of the puck or the location constantly. But on a radio, a very tough job. I don't remember when Elliott sounded like that, Lubie. I really don't. It seemed like it had more clarity to it, and yet I believe this guy was spot on in what he was calling, but virtually impossible. Is it that I'm old and can't follow the? I
Oh
mean, you're
no,
supposed to be painting this word picture,
it's hockey.
but
It's nuts.
you would have had no idea what the hell was happening. And I at the same time I say that, I want to qualify that by saying I thought the guy was doing a tremendous job, but I don't know. It's a whole different thing. Does it even work on the radio anymore? Hockey on the radio? If you're gonna,
Never.
there were great guys doing this. Lang was great in Pittsburgh, and many legendary guys calling hockey on the radio, as was the case with Win Elliott. But it was impossible to follow. It really was. And I thought maybe it was me because I couldn't possibly begin to discredit this guy because whatever he was doing, what was amazing to me. I could not even begin to imagine calling something that was that fast paced with this kind of level of accuracy, and yet you would have had no idea what the hell was going on in the game. So, does hockey on the radio still work? That would be my question, Louis. Have you listened to any
Never.
hockey calls on the radio recently?
Never. I never like. I haven't listened to sports on the radio in a long time, but I would always catch this game or that game because now I can just put it on my phone. So it's not that I watch the video while driving, but I'll put it on and have it and drive and listen to the call on the phone. So like I haven't listened to anything on the radio in a long time, but I never listened to hockey on the radio. I can't even imagine. So I don't know what you guys grew up with. I knew that's all you knew. So you probably got in tune with it in a different way. And now you're used to watching it and then try to listen. And it's like, what the hell? I've never, ever listened to hockey on the radio. And I don't know how you could. Like watching it watching it on TV is not easy. So
Yeah.
no, I can't even imagine. And then to have to do that as a job, and then with the names that they have, like even if you know the names, the one guy, the jerk off that got in the tussle with Marshawn, it's like Goddess Be Here. Like it seems like an easy name to say because if you were in English, but there's no way that guy is like an American with that name. So like I can't even imagine. And then everyone has a name like that. So no way. I can't even imagine listening to that on. I give him credit. Plagans does a good job. We played.
Oh, he does. The guy's good. There's no. I mean, you would have to say at the pace he was operating at, and with the pronunciations, the all Berlitz team that you had when you're calling a hockey game now. Now, look, you know your own team. This was one thing. I mean, calling games. If you're following a team, you're watching whatever. When I was doing Canes basketball and baseball on the radio, you know your own team. So you don't have to really do much work there because you've seen them a zillion times. Getting to know the names on the other team in a basketball game, not that tough. But in hockey, where the guys are interchangeable in, as you said, like 45-second spurts. Holy crap. I don't know how this guy did. How does he not just want to blow his brains out by the end of the second period? But that was kind of a weird experience. And then I got home, and of course, the game was already on ice for the Panthers by the time the third period rolled around. They put it away with that 5-1 opening margin that they succeeded in achieving in the third period, although the fifth goal came kind of late.
Yeah, the fourth. It was a fourth goal. It was 3-1.
Fourth goal kind of cemented the game.
Then they got that fourth goal in the third period, and that pushed it to where they didn't challenge. Like that second goal came when they with the empty net, and they were up 5-2, 5-1 by that point. So yeah, they by the middle of the second, going to the third period, the Panthers are sort of like cemented themselves in a really safe place.
Yeah, Flowers were in a punch as soon as they got that fourth goal. It looked like it was very similar in that Toronto game when it looked like Toronto had a chance to get back in it, and then the Panthers answered right back. So, real solid. We got a text of the article that Dave Hyde wrote in the Sun Sentinel, and this is why I love it. And I don't mind now. People would normally ridicule the whole bandwagon jumping attitude of fans here, and how everybody's an expert now and analysis, and they're talking about Mikola and this guy and that guy, people that you never heard of, wouldn't even know were on the roster. But I don't mind it at all. I kind of dig it now that everybody's got their opinion and seems to be of the caliber of analysis that you would find if you're watching Canadian television. And let's bring it on. Let's just keep this going because it's a nice ride, and hopefully the Panthers will distinguish themselves and end up being one of those rows of 10 more items that were listed that I got bombarded instead, invaded by an erectile dysfunction head, and a way to cure that. Edmonton and Dallas tonight, and A lot of people are thinking that Edmonton and the Panthers will rematch and do it again, run it back after their 7-game series last year. Edmonton is plus 107, so a slight underdog on the money line to the Dallas Stars, who were the favorites, along with the Panthers, going into the Stanley Cup tournament. So most people would assume that Dallas had the superior team and had an edge here. They do have the home ice advantage in Game 1. They're minus 128 if you're betting on the money line. Edmonton does appear to be rolling. Are they on a mission from God, Lubie, in your opinion? I think that was one of the things you expressed.
I don't know about from God, but I think it seems like they're on a mission. Look, they stormed back in the Stanley Cup. Game 7 was tough, and the Panthers won in the end, a really tough game. And they started slow this year, and then they have just played really good hockey, and they played really good hockey throughout the entire playoffs. So one thing I'll say is, and I think and they said it last night, I don't know if it was when the Panthers got up 2-0, but they were like, Carolina hasn't seen anything like this. And you forget, like, every year, no matter how good the Panthers are, like the Panthers could be the president trophy winner, they face every good team in the Eastern Conference every round. So I've always thought, there's no bad teams. No, there are. The Hurricanes play them. Like the Hurricanes get these like really, like they play the Senators, and they play all these teams that like are fine teams, but they're okay. Like the Panthers play all the favorites. Like the Maple Leafs are a team people could see winning it all. The Lightning team, people could see winning it all. So like by the time they get here, it's like, okay, like we're used to it. And the Hurricanes have played, and I think that does mean something for the Oilers. It's interesting because I feel like Dallas may have had almost a tougher run, and so we'll see. I think they're on a mission in the sense that they got really close last year. The entire country's on their back yet again, and McDavid's now in that sweet spot where like he's in his prime. He's playing great hockey. He's a leader. He's been to a cup now, and those are the guys that usually, whatever sport, find a way to like put that, we saw with Ovi, right? Ovechkin, and with Crosby winning all these cups, Ovechkin could never win. He finally got to one, and he finally won it. And it was like, that's the thing that from a Panther standpoint that scares me is a guy like that knows what this means. He talked about with Gretzky. Gretzky won like 30 cups. Like you're not going to be in the same breath as a Gordie Howe who won a bunch of cups if you don't even have one. So, and how many times are you going to get there, right? Like you don't know. So that's what scares me about an Oilers is it feels like they sort of know there's a window and you got to go and capitalize on it. The Panthers got theirs. Like it's hard to be hungry for a second like you are for your first. So that's what scares me about the Oilers. I don't know about a mission from God because the Panthers don't go down easy. Like they just don't.
I mean, no one would ever question.
And they're not there yet. The Hurricanes again. I assume this to be an easy series. Like
no.
It just feels like the Oilers are I don't know about mission from God, but like really hungry.
They get there. I mean, they have a tough challenge on it. They are facing the favorites out of the Western Conference and the favorites of the odds makers to win the whole thing. A couple of things. Jim Sarney, it's good to have a trained media critic and an acclaimed media critic as part of the program here, and he's always active on our chat line. He says the Panthers radio hockey is a great listen, which I wouldn't deny. I'm just saying the pace that this guy was going at was beyond amazing to me, and I found it. I wasn't sure. I mean, look, the guy's level of excitement and accuracy was impeccable. It just, I don't know that I could sort of digest all of that detail. It was a little rough. Now maybe I'm not used. I haven't listened to a game on the radio, like I said, for a long, long time. I don't recall it being that frenetic, the pace, but maybe the pace of the game has changed to the point where that's what it takes. Would not question at all and I love Bill Lindsay, so I wouldn't question at all the quality of the broadcast. I think it was probably spot on. But and then of course Andy fires back. He wonders if they had radio when Jim Sarney was a kid. This is the kind of stuff you get now. It's a cruel, cruel world. All right, baskets last night. Minnesota leading 48-44 at halftime. Second half, a disaster for the Timberwolves. OKC wins at 114-88. They go up 1-0. If you only saw the second half, you would wonder if Minnesota would even bother showing up for game number 2. 32-18 in the third quarter to open things up, and then the game became an aberration there in the fourth quarter with a 38-22 margin favor of OKC. SGA was ice cold in the first half of that game, and therein lies the gist of the problem that they had with only 44 points, but caught fire in the second half and looked like OKC was vastly superior. Did you catch any of that action, or were you
Oh,
so
yeah.
glued into the Panther game that you dismissed that as secondary affair?
I mean, I was watching the Panthers game and I was enthralled in the Panthers game, but I had an eye on that game and it was tight. I'm like, all right, good. The Panthers were done with like 6 minutes left in that game. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll go back to that game. And from the end of the third to the middle of the fourth, when I was like, okay, because the Panthers started to really pour it on, and I for some reason get more anxious when they get the bigger leads because I just don't trust hockey. Like, yes, 3 goals it seems like more than 21 points in a football game. Like, it just 3 goals seems insurmountable. But then because it's such a weird sport, you can get 2 goals in 30 seconds. So like, when they get a bigger lead, for some reason, I'm scared they're going to let down, which they're actually good about not doing. But so I get really anxious. So I stopped totally paying attention to that other game. But I'm like, yeah, it's close, good, because it was a tight game. So I'm like, all right, I'll have just enough time, finish that game. I turn over, I'm like, oh, there they are. Like, and that's what I'm scared for with this series is the T-Wolves will be close, but the Thunder are just so good. And they're just so deep. Like, they just pull away. It's like a race where you're like watching the horses. You're like, oh, they're neck and neck. Like, how the hell did that horse win by 5 lengths? Like, they just pour it on, and they're so well coached, and they play so well together, and they really only have one star, and he doesn't act like a star at all. That they're like in unison, and it's just tough because we love Patrick Surtain. He's now defensive backs coach with FSU, but he was on Twitter talking about, well, if Steph was healthy, Warriors would beat the crap out of all these teams. I'm like, oh, so you haven't watched the Thunder at all and are talking about it from like a football standpoint. Like, they have this super guy. No, it's not LeBron versus the world. Like, the Thunder are ridiculous. Like, I'm like, you're wrong. Like, the Thunder would beat the Warriors in 5. Like, Curry would give his best effort and they would do this because he said it right before they poured it on. And then he tried to defend himself. I'm like, no, you're just wrong. Like, the Thunder are not only the best in the league, they're the best by a lot. Like, the Nuggets were the one team that could have pushed them, and they did. They took them to 7, and then they lost by 30. Like, this team is that team. They're not the Warriors of the 10s. They're not the Heat, and they're not like this amazing team that's going to win from jump to end. They just outlast you. Like, they just keep coming. It's like the Panthers, actually. Where the Panthers don't always win 5-1. They just you think you're in it, and then you're like, what? They're so physical, and they're so athletic, and they're so long, and they are just smart. They're just a really, really good team, and people it's like the Nuggets 2 years ago, where people don't realize just how good this Thunder team is, and they underestimate them time and time again. And you're going to see the T-Wolves are interesting, and they're fun. The Thunder are winning this in like 5 games. Like, I don't see anyone pushing them the rest of the way.
Beyond all of the things that you alluded to, the other thing that impressed me, you know me with my horse body language, and I was dead wrong because I thought that Tennessee was super tight under Bruce Pearl when I saw the post-game celebrations that they were exhibiting. And every time I see the Thunder in a post-game, whenever they win a game, and everybody kind of comes around, they're interviewing SGA, and they're all into it. So it seems like they display a togetherness that is sort of unique, especially in the NBA, where they really do rally around each other. And that's probably a big reason why they're able to make those runs and sustain them. Did want to get in one other note here before we go old school with Tony Segreto. I happen to be, I was just, I turned 16 a couple of months prior, and that permitted me by New York State law to be able to work at night. I had been working at Shea Stadium for a couple of years. I started there when I was 14, but you could only work in the daytime then. And fortunately for me, they played a lot of day baseball. Weekend games were always in the daytime. They had some day games during the week. So I got to work a lot, but I always missed the night games. So I just started working at night, and they decided in that year to hold a couple of boxing matches at Shea Stadium, one of which featured the great Emil Griffith, who is commemorated in song. I'm not sure. I would doubt this was part of the original lyrics, but there have been many extrapolations of one of the great jazz tunes to play, and that is, it's a show tune, but many jazz bands go into their version of My Favorite Things, which happened to be one of my favorite songs. And Al Jarreau had a version where he alluded to the great Emil Griffith. So at Shea Stadium, 1967, I'm selling binoculars in the upper deck, tickets for the upper deck for a world title fight or $5, Libby, $5 to sit in the upper deck. But you couldn't see crap from the upper deck at Shea Stadium because the ring's down there on the field around second base. And so we were selling binoculars in the upper deck. We had these little Japanese or Chinese binoculars that we were selling. They actually blurred your vision more than they enabled you to see the fight. And they were $1 a pop, and we were selling them by the hundreds and even thousands. So we made a lot of money. And I got to see Nino Benvenuti versus Emil Griffith, the second of their trilogy of fights. Benvenuti, he was a dashing Italian. He had won the gold medal in the Rome Olympics, had an unbelievable amateur record, had 120 fights, only one loss as an amateur, was a two-weight division champion as a pro. He beat Griffith that night on a questionable majority decision, and I still remember to this day being at that fight, and the dashing Italian Nino Benvenuti, Boxing Hall of Famer, checked out yesterday, along with
I'm sorry.
George Wendt. Well, he lived a good life. I mean, for a boxer to live to 86 is not necessarily the norm. And this guy was an Italian playboy. I mean, he may as well have been a Formula One driver in terms of his popularity. So may he rest in peace. And I'll never forget being at that fight. And, of course, George Wendt, Norm from Cheers.
Yes, that's
So that was also some sad news yesterday out of our daily obituary column. We're going to welcome in Tony Segreto. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I am fine and dandy. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing well.
Lubie, we have to stop meeting this way.
And anyway, Mr. Segreto.
Yeah,
I am fine.
All right, we're going to come back with Tony in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:37.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff Torrance, we got Michael Lubie, Tony Segreto joins us on the program. Tony with a little old school. Where do you want to begin, Tony? What do you have on your mind today?
You know, I was going to leave that up to you, but since you asked, I can't get over how fast, how good these hockey players are.
Oh, God.
They're just incredible. And to listen to the game on the radio, like I heard you say, and I'll tune in tonight or tomorrow night to listen to the game on the radio. I can't imagine what that's like, because it's got to be crazy. It's got to be insane.
Yeah, it was a wild listen for me. I just don't remember the pace being that fast. So, it was kind of interesting. I was trying to figure out, you're trying to envision where the puck is, and I'm thinking, how's this guy keeping up with it? I really had no idea. I was very impressed. I know, and I've listened to the hockey announcer for the Panthers on talk shows, and the guy is extremely articulate and very entertaining. And I mean, I could not believe what a job this guy was doing, and yet at the same time, I also had no idea what was going on.
I had no idea, because you know, they're fulfilling a purpose, and that's it. Because everybody listens for the goal, and it's insane. It's absolute. In baseball and in football, you can move it along. You can.
Oh yeah, it's very.
And in hockey, it's just balls to the wall.
Well, it's really you don't have the same structure. A lot of announcing play-by-play. You've done play-by-play, and it's very structured. I mean, you
Yes.
watch a baseball game, you have a lot of time to fill in between pitches and in between, times where the ball is actually in play. And basketball is a little tougher. But nonetheless, it's very formulated. Football couldn't be any easier in terms of the structure for a play-by-play announcer. Hockey, just total state of anarchy. I really don't know how this guy did it.
It's a free for all.
It is.
It's a free for all. Yes, it is, because I respect those guys more than most people, because what they do is amazing. They have to paint the picture on radio and describe the play, and those are two different things, because you can describe the play on television and it's one way, and you describe the play on radio and it's another way. And boy, I tell you what, that takes some talent. That takes some real talent.
Well, you have a zillion changes of possession.
Oh,
and
line
changes of
changes
possession are so quick that a guy gets a stick on a puck. All of a sudden, one team has it. Now you're going in the mode that they're on offense, and within a split second, the other team has the puck. So
Yep.
it's not easy to do. I can't even imagine. When I was listening to it, I was thinking,
My God.
I feel capable of doing most of this stuff, but I could never do this.
Never in a million years would I even want to try.
All right, what's impressed you so far about this run, maybe for 3 straight Stanley Cups?
They're resilient. They're just a resilient group. I mean, they sit there and they're down. What are they down to? The first round, they were down 2-0.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. To the Lightning. Yep. They were down 0-2.
And they're just resilient. That they bend, don't break.
Oh, I'm sorry. Last round they were down 0-2 to the Maple Leafs.
They're amazing. They're fun to watch. And that's been a great run for South Florida, because of the, I think back to the days when Wayne first brought this team here, and how bad they were.
Yeah.
And you couldn't.
I don't know that they were ever bad, Tony. I wouldn't agree with that.
Well,
they weren't bad. I mean, they were around 500 their first 2 years, went to the finals in their 3rd season.
Well, that's true. But still, they couldn't fill the seats, and then they finally did, and then they.
The last 20 years. I mean, for 20 years they were bad.
After the beginning,
that was a problem. They started strong and gave us a lot of hope, and then they fell off a cliff.
Oh God!
All right, are you following baskets at all, Tony?
Well, baskets. I don't know. I God love them, but I just can't get into now. Now the heat's out of it. Last night in this house we had 3 TVs going. We had the Emmys going for my daughter. She won 3.
Oh, nice.
And the Panther game for me, and the voice for my wife.
You didn't have the basketball on at all.
So we were bouncing around like crazy. So when it comes to basketball, the heat's out of it. So I tune in, but I don't pay attention that way. Where you break it down and say this guy playing well, this guy's playing well. I don't do that. So the way it is.
All right. I thought of you the other night. I actually tuned in. There wasn't much happening. I think this might have been, it could have been Monday night, but I'm perusing channels, and I happen to land on the Texas A&M Liberty best
Oh,
of 3 softball series, and I'm amazed, Tony. I wanted to give you the platform because I thought that would be the first thing you brought up. Liberty with a massive upset in women's college softball.
That game is so fast and they're so good, and the pitchers, I'm amazed every time I see them what they throw and how they throw it, and how many innings they can go without a sore arm. It's just truly, and Florida State is on an unmistakable run because they're not supposed to be there. And Lonnie, God love her with her cancer, and she just got them playing well, and she's got the pitching staff that she's pitching by committee. She one girl for 2 innings, this girl for 2 innings, and now anybody. You know what? They could wind up the College World Series.
they're playing great.
Yeah, Texas A&M was the number 1 overall seed, and they lose. I think Liberty. I was surprised.
Liberty is amazing because
check the rankings. Yeah, they were like 26th or something.
You get on a roll, and then you're unstoppable. Then you're really, really unstoppable.
Let's bring in Ed Garcia. Of course, Tony's appearance here.
Hey, Ed.
Really, the number 1.
Good morning.
I don't even like to call it a chain of restaurants because there was some negative aspersions cast even by our own restaurant critic, Mr. Mike Mayo, because when he heard the word chain, he would go, it's a chain. But you won him over, Ed, and not an easy thing to do, to make a convert out of Mike Mayo when it comes to food. But I don't know. The individual management and ownership of these restaurants, is that what makes the difference? But, I mean, by any standard now of a barometer or measuring these type of things, you guys stack up as number 1. So congratulations.
Appreciate that. I mean, I think Kent, our founder, came up with, really it's not a secret formula, but, truly giving what we call the managing partner, the owner operator of each location, a piece of the pie. And I just celebrated in my Daytona location, Shane Klein celebrated 21 years with Texas Roadhouse.
Wow.
Now, this market, my market, really, South Florida, has been around 13 years. 12 years ago, I opened the first location in Miramar, but my average tenure of my management team is probably around 10 years old. And considering I started off with 1, and now here we are at 12 locations across the east coast of Florida, people just don't want to go. And I think that's just part of it, that, they own a piece of the pie, and, and at the same time, we take great care of them. And we serve, it's something you can be proud of. When you can go out there and talk to the table and like, hey, those green beans were just made, or those mashed potatoes are piping hot because it just came out of the pot. It's just, you're very, very proud versus, I know some other concepts where it's like, hey, it's fresh out of the bag, or, hey, our truck didn't show up with your sauce, and, that type of stuff. Our microwave is broken, so we couldn't heat up your food. We don't have to have excuses like that. It's old fashioned, hey, fire and smoke and all that good stuff that makes a great meal, and everybody just has a great time doing it. So very, very blessed.
Where are you, Ed?
I am in Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice.
I'm actually hanging out. Kent and Willie Nelson had a really great relationship. Ken would go to a lot of his shows. May have partaken in a couple of extracurriculars with Willie.
Wow.
And so he built. So
how was that stuff?
A quick story. This was our first. If you haven't read the book by Kent, Made from Scratch, he had one office in this building, and it's 2 huge buildings. And over the course of the last 32 years, we now own entirely both buildings. And he built, before he passed, connecting both buildings, and he built a cafeteria for people to come in and eat and hang out at. It's called Willie's Joint. So, and then behind me is a list of I just came back from Vegas, and every year when Ken was around, he would create a bar for people to go out after the concerts and that to unwind. He'd create a bar and use his architect degree and his creative mind, in a sense of, and make a fun bar. So like one year it was the mouse trap, we got the cosmic turtle when we had it in Naples and all the different ones. It's just a lot of fun. That's how, Ken had fun and got to spend his creativity business, but he would rent one of those huge rooms in the hotel and legit make neons and bring in tables and chairs and all that other stuff so people could just go out there and throw down with Lubie at the end of the night.
Hey, Ed, how's it coming along in Davie?
Davie's coming along pretty good. We're waiting to hear back from the city. They have one of those park and goes in a sense where people can come, and if they give us the right to park there, because there's going to be certain days, Father's Day, Mother's Day, when we open up, it's going to be so busy that we're going to have to use that for overflow. And what we don't want is that we get a sign there saying like, hey, we don't want Texas Roadhouse to park here. I mean, there's no necessarily, anyone can park there because it's owned by the city or state. So we're waiting for that verbiage, and then we're going to continue moving down the road. But in the meantime, we're slowly moving forward, but I'm excited about that. And then Stewart's gained a little bit of momentum. Those are the two right now. And then I just, one of our counterparts closed something in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know if you heard, so I'm trying to work on that one. I've never really ventured into the big cities because, rent is really, really high. Traffic is bananas in those big busy areas. But, a lot of people are requesting the second. I don't know if you heard, it was Bahama Breeze. So my phone blew up. My restaurants all locally blew up.
This location was a big deal. I loved that location. We used to go there for years.
And so everyone's like, hey, they closed. Can you bring one closer to me? Bring one closer to me. and I love that. And I encourage, all our fans out there, hey, let me know if I can, finding real estate goes quick. It's just that we're very, very picky because we want to make sure that you get a great building because we use real cedar. We staff it to the nines. We just, some people look at our stock or our bill, our valuation of our organization. They're like, oh, let's just go ahead and charge them 5 times normal rent. And that's not how our concept works. We need good economic rent so we can offer great quality steaks at a great price for you. So.
Are you following the Panther run, Ed Garcia?
Dude, they got the W last night. Let's keep moving forward. That game 7 was awesome. I caught just the second period last night. That was really fantastic. So I'm very excited. Hey, I think they could pull it off again. I know in a couple of shows ago, you asked, I was like, hey, I think the Panthers could do it, even though they did struggle that last round in the beginning. But, they figured it out and started clicking and moving forward. So very excited for them.
3 in a row.
It hurts my business a little bit, but hey, I got to cheer for the home team.
So, I was just going to ask you, like a lot of places, like where I do my trivia on Thursdays, landlubbers, they get, because it's literally 5 minutes from the arena. So a lot of people, when they're away, like it'll bring people in. So I was curious because you guys do have TVs. You do have possibly the coldest beer in town. You are not only family friendly, which would still work for a game, right? Because it allows dad and mom to watch the game and keep the kiddies busy and full. But I'm always curious if like stuff like that does help or hurt business. Interesting. You were like, it hurts.
It's a mix. If you're close by the restaurants, people are going to the game. Like if my restaurant's close to the facility, people are going to the game. But we do get a lot of people that will stay and watch the game as well. And especially if it's a tight game, that that third period, they may have finished their steak an hour ago, but hey, they're having a great time. And you said it best, they're having the coldest beer in town. And there's nothing better than that nice 22-ounce, Duke mug that is at like legit 0 degrees. And we're serving you 28-degree beer. Just tastes delicious to the last drop.
Can you deliver them in on takeout? The beer.
Can you get beer to take out? You can get food for takeout, but we do our margaritas to go, and you can get them flavored. I tell you, Cinco de Mayo, it was I kept seeing the half gallons, kept flying out on Cinco. That was pretty cool. Our margaritas are the best, hands down. I will tell you, we redid our recipe about 7 years ago. And we removed 28 ingredients out of the sweet and sour mix. And we're down to like 4 or 5. I mean, it's just natural, essentially natural and pure. It makes such a difference. You don't get that sugary. Like, you have one or two, and all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? Like, did I just drink a case of Mountain Dew? And I tell you, that's what I love about margarita. You just get that awesome tequila flavor. And hey, and if you don't like that tequila flavor like Lubie, we can add a lot of strawberry and raspberry in there for you.
Hey,
and an umbrella just for him.
Ed, can you tell me about the trout?
The trout, we really only see that in the Midwest from time to time, but we have the salmon. And then up in the Northeast, if you ever visit us up in, the Northeast, we do have cod that we do like a fish and chips. And then down here in the South, we do the catfish. But the salmon, wild caught, on top of it, my recommendation is to get it blackened. It just is, I don't know why we don't put it on the menu, but you can get it blackened on there, and that just brings it to life. And we home make the tartar sauce. So the tartar sauce, blackened salmon with our seasoned butter rice, can't go wrong.
I'm sold.
Yep.
We know.
Lubie, watch it.
Well, very good, guys. Well, hey, you guys have an awesome week. I appreciate you guys. Let's go Panthers.
Ed, you're the man. Thank you so much. Next week, my friend.
Good to see you, ladies and gentlemen. That place, top notch, unbelievable. Thanks so much for being with us.
He is the nicest guy, and to say anything bad about Texas Roadhouse, I challenge you to. You may get a bad meal here and there.
It happens.
But at Texas Roadhouse, you don't. You just don't. And they found the niche, and they love it. God bless them. God bless them.
God bless you, sir.
All right, Tony. Have a great week. We'll see you next week on Old School with Tony Segreto. Thanks as always for being with us.
My pleasure.
All right, Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. Very good, Lubie. All right, what about your Knicks Indiana Pacers tonight? What do you make of that game? Because I don't know really. It's funny too because everybody's going to be diving in betting, and many people think that they have a sharp opinion. I don't know that I have a definitive opinion on this thing. I guess part of me, especially after I watched that 30 for 30 about the Knicks championship 69-70 with Michael Rappaport on it was replayed. I've seen it before. It's very interesting because I didn't realize the NBA. Sam Jones, I remember having a conversation with Sam Jones. We were doing a remote at Shula's. Actually, we were doing our trivia show out there at Shula's on a Saturday. And Sam Jones was brought by the dais there where we were doing a show from, the location. And he got into this whole thing about how racist the NBA was back in his time and what he had to deal with. Now, he was playing, of course, for the Celtics, but you would have thought Sam Jones, KC Jones, they were heroes there. Bill Russell. Now, Russell's addressed this, but I didn't realize how prominent it was and how prevalent it was because there was a big rift between Kazi Russell and Bill Bradley. Can you imagine Bill Bradley, who seems to be just the most righteous of individuals? You can't imagine that he got into some kind of racial divide. Kazi Russell felt like he was being neglected and overlooked because of the fact that he was a black player. And yet, if you looked at the composition of that 69-70 Knicks team, who were the stars? Willis Reed and Clyde Frazier.
Yep.
So it was interesting because it was a big battle for the starting position between Bradley and Kazi Russell. Red Holzman happened to be a white coach, which where there were even black coaches. I guess Bill Russell became a player coach, but that was that before that season got underway. I think that was later.
Kazi Russell and Bradley were that close in play. Like I know all these people from their lore. Like Bradley's a Hall of Famer. I know Kazi Russell was a really good player, but I didn't know he was confused for Bill Bradley.
Kazi Russell was instant offense. Holzman's justification and rationalization for putting Russell off the bench was that he was much more capable of just popping into a game and doing the Vinnie Johnson type of thing and providing a spark right away, whereas Bradley was somebody that had to kind of immerse himself into the flow of the game and was far more effective as a starter. I don't know. I mean, that could be. I can't imagine that Red Holzman what was predicating and making decisions based on the color of the player's skin. I can't picture that. He seemed like such a wholesome and righteous individual in his own right. But yeah, it was interesting. So now, I mean, you're looking at they did win the championship again in '73, and they haven't done it since. So that's 52 years without a championship. Where does that leave you on this? Because we know, and look, you've talked about this all season. We always do. Indiana, one of those teams that was on to come, and last year possibly could have made their way into the finals, maybe even won the championship. Wasn't out of the question, but they didn't quite make it that far. They had an injury to Halliburton, which seriously compromised their chances.
Yep.
I don't know what to make of this game one, Lubie. I hate to be a wimp and not say, oh, well, I really love the Knicks tonight, but how could you really love either side in this ballgame? I don't know where you stand. For some reason, I'm thinking that the Knicks will somehow prevail in this series, maybe influenced by the NBA's desire to have a marquee team in the finals. Jim Sarney tells us, Mr. Television Critic, I was surprised by this, actually, because we were kind of calling him out to see what the numerology was on television ratings, and he says that there's an increase this year so far, and what most people were describing as a somewhat inconsequential NBA playoff tournament as compared to the excitement that you were getting night in and night out, whether you had any affiliation or interest in the teams or not. But you couldn't help but find some aspect of these hockey bloodbaths that were taking place that would attract your attention. And the general consensus seemed to be, Lubie, that the hockey games were providing far more of a spark for television audiences than the NBA games were, where you had blowouts and it looked like teams had thrown in the towel and didn't seem to care, playing the game with indifference, which is probably the biggest turnoff for any fan. Just ask Juan Soto. So what do you think? I don't know. I mean, I want to believe somehow, I guess my Knick fandom has resurrected itself from a very distant, dormant, subliminal position in my mind. And I would like to see the Knicks make it to the finals, maybe even win a championship at this point, because I really don't have much interest in the other teams. But can they beat Indiana in the series? And what do you think about tonight?
Can they? Yeah. Look, I think it's going to be a tough series. I just find it interesting. Look, I get it. The people have built the Celtics up to be this juggernaut. And I think if you start there, you then have told yourself, okay, the Knicks beat the juggernaut. That makes the Knicks the juggernaut. If you followed us the last 2 years, never thought the Celtics were a juggernaut. I thought the Celtics got a cake pathway to the finals and a cake pathway to a title. So if you start from there, it makes their victory over the Celtics pretty equal to the Pacers' victory over the Cavs. The Cavs, up until that series, looked like they were toe-to-toe with the Celtics, if not better in my mind. They dismantled them. They left the Cavs looking lost, dazed, and confused, the coach of the year in Kenny Atkinson. So I think people, because it's New York and they've been down so long, they were very careful when it came to the Celtics. And now that they beat the Celtics, everyone's like, oh, the Knicks. You're ignoring the Pacers, which I did all year too, and you're doing it at your own dismay. The Pacers are deeper. The Pacers are more athletic. The Pacers are more talented. The Pacers are better coached. And the Pacers don't.
You think they're better coached?
Rick Carlisle compared to Tom the Murderer Thibodeau?
Thibodeau, he's been effective
in NBA history. I think he's really good at. Okay, he's a good coach in the sense that he gets more out of less. So that's actually why I love Spo, right? But the problem is when he has more, he doesn't do more. When he has more, he treats it like it's less, and he murders them. And it, as much as Knicks fans ignore it, when it happens in front of their face, they're like, oh my God, Thibodeau. But then the minute things calm down, they forget it. You can't have 5 guys be in the top 8 in minutes, have no bench at all, and then forget that. The Pacers are very reminiscent of the Thunder. They go like 8 or 9 deep, and they don't skip a beat when they go 8 or 9 deep. Like, remember, Halliburton got hurt, and they were still in games.
Yes.
Like, that's not the Knicks. If Jalen Brunson's not in there, the Knicks are gonna good luck to the Knicks. Like, again,
it's El Finito. You're right.
Thibodeau is a good coach, but he holds himself and his teams back because of how he coaches. It's so balls to the wall all year long, and he never goes to a bench. And even when they have a bench, you forget it. Now they don't have a bench. Like, they got rid of DiVincenzo. They got rid of their depth. Like, that's not like, people are so northeastern biased. They're ignoring the Pacers, who just beat the living crap out of the Cavs. Like,
I would agree. They're being overlooked.
I think it's going to be a good series. I think the Knicks are going to go toe-to-toe, but I think it's going to be very much like Thunders and T-Wolves, where at some point the Pacers' depth just sort of pulls them away. And I think the Pacers win in 6. This New York stuff where people want to will it, okay, they had to give everything they had to get through the Celtics, who were not the same Celtics team that people wanted them to be. The Pacers didn't. Like the Pacers series was actually sort of easy over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like I don't think it's going to be a walloping. I think it'll be a tough series, a fun series. But the Pacers are better offensively. They're just as good defensively. They're better coached. They're deeper, and they're equally as athletic. Like it's just the Celtics have no size. They're older. They have this stupid chuck or nothing system. Like that's not the Pacers. The Pacers move the ball. The Pacers will go to the basket. The Pacers have a lot of size, and the Pacers have a lot of toughness. Which that's the funny thing about the Celtics. People think Boston. They think 80s. They think tough. No, this team is not tough. This team, that's their problem. The Celtics is they're soft. That's not the Pacers. Like people are putting this thing on the Pacers are soft. They're not soft. Tyrese Halliburton, you saw his dad. Like I think he's a psycho, but like that literally is. This team is a lot tougher than they're giving. I don't know. I think people are doing to the Pacers what they did to the Knicks, and I think they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna regret it, but they're gonna wake up and go, "Oh, okay, this team was in the conference finals last year."
This is one of those games that nothing would come as a complete surprise for me.
No, that's true.
The only thing that would come as a complete surprise, I think, would be if the Pacers got blown out. That would kind of make me wonder. It's one of those series, and this is true many times at this stage. I don't know that it was so true last night with Oklahoma City because I'm thinking you have to see one before you go ahead and render some kind of judgment. I don't know if that's fair, Lou, because that's taking you somewhat off the hook. But I really need to see one in this series before I could come up with any kind of definitive opinion as to which way it's going to go. And if you ask me which way I was leaning, and nothing would surprise me, like I said, except the Pacers getting blown out in game one and possibly being down 0-2 going back to their home wood in games where the Knicks won in convincing fashion. That would surprise me quite a bit. So anyway, that's on tap tonight. Edmonton also out there against Dallas. Tough call there as well. Another one of those series where you're thinking that you have to see one. So, and once again, I mean, the whole world mourning the death of one of the all-time great television characters, Norm. From Cheers. George Wendt checked out yesterday. That was really, really unfortunate to see that because he wasn't that old, right? I mean, I'm looking at the clock myself. It's ticking. If he could check out at 76. Now, he was carrying some excess weight there.
Yeah.
It's not a good omen for.
Like you did a good job at right when you were getting to your 60s, being like, you know what, I can't screw around. He never did. Like it sucked, but like George Wendt carried a lot of weight and never. I mean, it was a part of who he was, I guess, but it sucks because it's hard to make it to your 90s when you're massively overweight.
Yeah, no, it's the old Ida Lupino movie. I Want to Live. I never forget that title. That was a long time ago. And if you want to live, you better get out there and start moving around. All right, Louis, you have a great day. We'll see you later, Wands, right, for the Mayo show.
Yes.
And the location there for those that want to come on out and see.
It's called Victoria Park, I guess. It's a Federal between Sunrise and Broward. And if you know our guys at Batch, it's across the street from Batch. And if you know Shuck and Dive, which is a great Cajun.
It's there by Shuck and Dive?
It's right next to Shuck and Dive.
Okay,
right.
So they have a parking lot there. And
regular parking. There's a Winn-Dixie. It's like a nice shopping center. Even though you're in Fort Lauderdale, you get the parking.
So it's right past the turn. On the other side.
Yes. It'll be on
I'm going south, so
this is on the east side, whereas Batch is on the west. But it's right next to Shuck and Dive. You know Shuck and Dive, which is a mainstay in South Florida.
Yeah, it's not quite as far south though as Batch is what you're saying.
It may be a little bit north of Batch, but it's like right next to. It's like Batch. You go a little bit farther, and it's definitively Victoria Park. This is before that, but it's on the other side and right next to Shuck and Dive.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll see you there. And then everybody, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, bringing you Old School with Tony Segreto. For Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
No idea what to say about this next game. I really don't. I mean, I'm sort of like this, thinking, hey, let's get this story going. The Knicks. It's 9:10.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.